Jiro was a seemingly average boy living in modern-day Japan. But one day he realized that he could talk to animals, and the world was never the same again. He used to get into fights with the other boys who used to bully him in primary school, claiming that he is some sort of a freak, but Jiro was not one to back down, and would end up fighting them every other day. One day he came back from another fight at the school and sat beside his family dog Nachai, who asks him kindly whether he ended up fighting again. And Jiro replies that the boys at school call him a freak, so he has no other choice but to fight. Nachai talks to him in a calm voice, claiming that he shouldn't take their words to heart, as one day he would realize how incredible the power that he possesses is. Several years pass by and Jiro is a young strapping man now. But one thing hasn't changed at all: his ability to get into fights for absolutely no reason. He walks up to 3 high school punks beneath a bridge who warn him that their senpai is the head of the Demon League. But Jiro seems completely unbothered as he picks his nose, and replies that he doesn't care and think that his senpai is just a prick and nothing else. Hearing this, the goon gets mad and tries to punch Jiro, but he is too fast for the punk and dodges the hit easily before kicking the man down into the river. The other 2 boys get a little scared, wondering what kind of ninja moves were that. But Jiro is not someone who backs off easily and starts teasing the other 2 guys as well, forcing them into a fight. Both of them decide to attack him together, but they are no match for Jiro, who easily outclasses them and sends them all running beaten and wet. Suddenly Jiro hears the voice of someone from behind, thanking him for the help, and he turns around to see a crow and a cat walk up to him. The cat thanks him once again, claiming that lately those goons have been creating a lot of problem for them, but the cat is more worried about Jiro, as the goons might decide to take revenge on Jiro sooner or later. Jiro tells them not to worry about it, as he knows how to move around these situations. With that, he bids them goodbye and moves back towards his house. He finds his dad waiting for him, and immediately figures out that Jiro got into a fight once again. He starts shouting at him, claiming that he didn't teach him the art of being a ninja just so that he could act like a worthless punk and beat people up. Jiro gets mad and snaps back, claiming that no one cares about ninjas anymore and they are just a waste of time. This makes his dad mad, and he shoots some throwing spikes at him in anger, which Jiro quickly dodges. His father takes out a katana and tells him that this is a family heirloom which has been passed down their bloodline from the Edo period, when their family received it from the shogun himself for bravery on the battlefield. He tells Jiro to act like an adult, as he is the one who would carry forward their family line. But Jiro smirks at his dad, claiming that the sword must be a harmless fake and nothing else. This pisses his dad off, and he unsheathes the blade, ready to show his son how real the sword is, while Jiro runs around and begs for forgiveness. After all was said and done, the dad forces Jiro to clean everything up and tells him that he is going to the town association meeting and won't be back till late at night, so he should lock up before sleeping. Jiro murmurs that he is not a child when suddenly the crow from earlier reappears and shouts at Jiro that they have an emergency. He claims that a cat in the woods seems to be in terrible condition and quickly leads Jiro through the forest, where he finds the cat laying on the soil in a puddle of blood. Jiro realizes that the cat is still alive somehow and wonders what might have resulted in this. He calls onto the cat, trying to make sure that it's still alive, and suddenly something happens inside the soul of the cat, as it seems like a demonic being just woke up. Jiro takes the cat back home and patches it up enough that it regains its strength slowly and finally opens his eyes. Jiro enters the room with some cat food and notices that the cat seems to have passed the most dangerous stage and should be fine now. He asks the cat what his name is, claiming that even stray animals have their own names, and the cat replies sarcastically that even if he told him his name, the humans are too stupid to understand any other language. Unbeknownst to him, Jiro is capable of understanding animal speech, and this freaks the cat out and it hides beneath the bed, refusing to come out. Jiro tries to coax the cat out, claiming that he knows that the cat might be a little surprised, but he shouldn't be worried as Jiro is completely harmless. The cat feels for any sort of spectral energy but can't feel any, which means that Jiro is just a normal human. But he can't understand how the hell can he understand animal tongue. Jiro finally decides to try some other way out and brings out his secret weapon, which is kitty treats. It doesn't take long for the cat to come out and start chowing down on the meal, while Jiro sits beside him, pleased with himself. After finishing the meal, the cat looks at Jiro, claiming that he is not a cat, but an immortal named Reigo. People also call them a mononoke. Jiro is confused. What the hell is the cat talking about? But Reigo explains that Mononokes are magical beings that can take the shape of a human or an animal at will, and most of the humans have no idea about it. Some of them live amongst humans, while others prefer living in solitudes in the mountains or the woods. Jiro asks how he got injured, and Reigo replies that he was attacked by another Mononoke. Jiro asks how did that happen, and Reigo replies that he doesn't have a good idea. He just knows that he was in a deep sleep for a long time, and he was woken up from his slumber and found himself completely surrounded. They wanted his assistance, but Reigo declined, so they ganged up on him and beat him to an inch of his life. Jiro asks why did he not help them, since they were also Mononokes, but Reigo replies that he hates creatures like that, parasites that hide their weakness by hiding behind someone stronger. That strikes a chord with Jiro, while Reigo claims that he probably doesn't even believe him, so it doesn't matter. Jiro accepts that right now none of this makes any sense to him. But that doesn't mean that he won't believe Reigo. He claims that he can talk to animals, which is already weird enough, so he doesn't have to believe in something as weird as a Mononoke. Later that evening, Jiro gives Reigo a good shower to make sure that he is clean, and notices that Reigo's wounds have already healed completely. He claims that now he believes that he is definitely not an ordinary cat, because earlier he just thought that the cat was just spouting nonsense as many people do when they are dying. He claims that Reigo reminds him of his old dog Nachai, even though they are complete opposite in personality, as Nachai was a really good dog. He claims that back then, he would get bullied often and would come back home with scrapes and cuts. Nachai would ask him to help her take a bath, and while doing that, Jiro would forget about everything that happened during the day and get relaxed again. Later that night, Jiro goes to bed, and around midnight, Reigo gets up on the window and says his goodbye to Jiro, claiming that he owes him for saving his life. But right now, he needs to leave. Reigo jumps down the window and realizes that even though his wounds have been healed, he is still not at the same strength as before. Before he could walk away though, Jiro appears behind him yawning, asking where is Reigo going. This scares the daylights out of Reigo, who asks how the hell could he get down so quickly. Jiro doesn't really care to answer though, and asks where does Reigo think he is going in that condition. Reigo claims that it's none of his business, and Jiro replies that he is the one who saved him. Reigo replies he never asked to be saved. Jiro did everything of his own accord, and besides, he wouldn't have minded dying back there in the forest. Jiro asks why he says so, and Reigo again replies that it's none of Jiro's business. Jiro gets mad and claims that he won't let Reigo go till he gets an answer. But this pisses Reigo off, who turns around bursting with demonic energy as he tells Jiro to shut the hell up and go back to sleep before he turns his windpipe into a personal scratching post. He tells Jiro that he shouldn't forget that he is a Mononoke, a human-eating specter, so it would be best that he gets away from him as soon as possible. Jiro is shocked to hear that, and just then another voice interrupts them. Jiro turns around and spots a huge man standing in the yard alongside them. Reigo realizes that he missed his opportunity to run away, while Jiro turns around to face the huge man and asks whether he likes to enter other people's houses uninvited. The man claims that Jiro should shut his mouth as he is going to be devoured soon enough. With that, he turns his arm into a demonic arm and tries to snap Jiro in half. But Reigo drop kicks Jiro out of the way and takes off into the forest, forcing the huge Mononoke to chase after him. Jiro is too stunned to move, while Reigo tries his best to outrun the beast after him, knowing that all he has to do is get some distance. But because of his injuries, he is not at his full strength yet, and the huge Mononoke thrashes him mid-air down to the ground. The Mononoke laughs at Reigo, claiming that he is not very impressed by the legendary Star of Doom, Reigo, and tells him to calmly come with him as he wouldn't want to kill a fellow Mononoke. Reigo gets mad and starts bursting with demonic energy as he claims that all they want to do is get his powers, so if they are willing to pay for it with their lives, they are welcome to take him back. Both the demons get ready for a showdown, but just when they were about to clash, Jiro shows out of nowhere with his sword and slashes at the man's arm, forcing him back as he starts bleeding. Reigo is shocked and asks Jiro whether he has a death wish and tells him to run away. Jiro claims that if Reigo dies now, then whatever he did to save him would be for nothing, and he won't let that happen. Reigo angrily tells him to get away as this is not a street scuffle between boys, but it's too late now. The giant demon gets mad and transforms into a weird Bigfoot-looking monster. The huge monster is amazed that Jiro doesn't seem to be fazed by his huge size or the fact that he is a human-eating demon, so he attacks Jiro outright to see what he can do. Reigo thinks that Jiro is done for, but to his surprise, Jiro manages to escape and appears behind him with a sword. What Jiro didn't expect was the monster to be so fast, as he appeared behind Jiro mid-air and stabbed him with his finger, making a shish kebab out of him. Jiro starts spouting blood, but still he tries to swing his sword, but the monster is too quick and dodges it again. Jiro falls to the ground in a pool of his own blood, and the life starts to drain out of his eyes. Reigo walks up to him completely stunned, thinking about how weird of a human Jiro was. He saved a Mononoke for no reason, and was willing to give his life away to save a beast who would eat him the moment he gets a chance. The Bigfoot monster laughs at Jiro and tells Reigo that he must haven't eaten food for a while and must be hungry, so he should eat the human and get back his strength so they could have a better fight. Reigo turns around with anger in his eyes and tells the Mononoke to shut his trap, claiming that he is going to die soon. With that, he thinks about how he can eat Jiro and get back to full strength, but he won't do it, not after what he has done for a Mononoke. Instead, Reigo collects all of his spectral power and dumps it into Jiro, sacrificing his own form to save Jiro's life. The monster is horrified as he screams at Reigo, asking how could he give away his powers to a human, but Reigo tells him to shut up and Jiro stands up once again. He has no idea what the hell is happening, but Reigo tells him to focus on the fight right now. He dodges the monster's continuous attacks while Reigo tells him to get ready to attack. Jiro claims that there is no way he could do anything to that monster, but Reigo tells him not to worry and just punch the Mononoke at the right moment. Jiro believes in him and matches the timing perfectly. With Reigo's powers, he completely obliterates the monster, tearing him in 2 pieces and killing him. Before he could understand what has happened to him though, a woman pulls a knife on him and tells him not to move. Suddenly, a guy appears smoking a cig and tells him not to worry as they are not Mononokes, but just your average civil servants from the Department of Espionage. He claims that they are taking Jiro into custody, but Jiro tries to talk back and immediately gets hit on the back of the head by the woman, knocking him out cold. The soldiers that are dressed up like stormtroopers start bickering amongst themselves about who will handle Jiro's unconscious body as they are scared of him. But before they could reach a decision, the woman who pulled up a knife on Jiro decides to take care of the situation as she dragged Jiro by his leg as if he is a carcass that she just shot. Meanwhile, Jiro is lost in his dreams where he finds himself in a completely white area and spots Reigo standing in front of him, looking like a mist. Reigo claims that Jiro himself has a huge gaping hole in his chest, and that confuses Reigo till he looks down at himself and spots a huge hole. But before he could get worried about it, he ends up opening his eyes and finds himself in a hospital bed with a headache. He sits up on the bed and checks his chest to make sure that there is no hole there, when a voice startles him. The girl who carried him back sits beside him, on her phone scrolling through reels as she tells Jiro that he has been asleep for more than a day and a half and introduces herself as Ikai. Before Jiro could ask any more questions, she straight up calls her superior and informs him Jiro has woken up and seems aware enough to have a conversation. Just then she gets distracted when a back mist escapes from Jiro and takes shape of a cat on top of his head. Jiro is annoyed at Reigo for sitting on his head and the two start bickering all over again, while the girl tries to calm both of them down, claiming that this is a hospital. A little while later, the senior enters the hospital room and finally manages to calm both of them down, before telling Jiro that he is one tough boy, as any normal man wouldn't have been able to survive what he has gone through. With that, he turns towards Reigo, who looks like a dark spirit, and asks how is he feeling. But Reigo is much more skeptical about these people, and tells the man to mind his own business if he cares for his own life. The man realizes that Reigo is much more careful than he anticipated and doesn't trust him, but at the same time he doesn't seem to mean any true harm either. To gain their trust, the man decides to do a round of formal introductions and introduces himself as Shiba from the Bureau of Espionage. Jiro butts in, claiming that he knows who he is working for as he said that already before. What Jiro wants to know right now is why they were taken in by them. Shiba is surprised that Jiro remembers all that even after being bonked on the head. He turns towards him and asks whether he knows anything about a group called Aniwaban. Jiro raises an eyebrow as he has heard his dad talk about them, and replies that he knows that they existed during the Edo shogunate and were undercover agents selected by the shogun himself. Shiba is honestly surprised that Jiro knows all that, and replies that their job didn't end with the Edo period. In fact, they were carried forward through time, even to this modern day where they are known as the Bureau of Espionage. He claims that finding intelligence and counterintelligence in their own country and outside the country is their bread and butter, and moreover, their job is also to find and destroy the Mononoke. He continues that Mononokes rarely create any big incidents, and big incidents are generally caused by humans themselves, so most of the time their job revolves around guarding VIPs and investigating dangerous organizations. Shiba claims that his particular department focuses on the Mononokes, which means that usually he doesn't have to do much, But recently their facility was attacked by a gang of Mononokes, while the very Rego that was inside Jiro's body now was in the facility, sealed up. Jiro realizes that this is what Rego meant when he claimed that he was in a deep slumber and was woken up abruptly. With that, Shiba claims that it's his turn now to ask the questions and asks how exactly did Jiro end up with Rego inside of him. Jiro tells them the entire story, and the girl Ikai is beyond shocked. She asks how stupid can Jiro be for putting his nose in a business that doesn't concern him, and then even trying to save a Mononoke no less. Jiro snaps back, telling her to shut her mouth, as she wasn't there and doesn't know the situation. Shiba breaks their fight and tells Jiro that he might know this already, but Rego's fusion with him might be permanent and there might be no way to revert them to their normal state, but at the same time they must try to see what they can do and gain more information. Moreover, they know that the gang of Mononokes want Rego, but they don't know why exactly. So the Bureau will be taking Jiro under their protection for the time being. Jiro doesn't like the sound of that, but Shiba claims that he doesn't really have much of a choice as a missing persons complaint has already been registered for him. He claims that Jiro will be shifted to a different facility the next day and warns that the hospital has multiple guards, so trying to escape would be completely useless. Jiro sits inside his hospital room all alone, bored out of his mind, thinking whether he will always be stuck in solitary confinement like this. Rego laughs, claiming that he warned Jiro not to get involved, but he didn't listen. He claims that the Bureau is the one who sealed him away, so they are not going to treat Jiro like a human, and moreover the Mononokes who wanted to use Rego's powers are still out there, and they won't sit with their hands tied and will surely try to get to Jiro. Before Rego could even finish though, Jiro starts throwing a tantrum and gets up from the bed telling Rego to be ready as they are breaking out of here. He claims that he is not going to sit and let someone else dictate what he can and can't do. Rego claims that there are guards waiting outside the room, and he is not going to help Jiro get out of another mess that he creates. Jiro claims that he will manage everything by himself and looks at the crows sitting outside the window. Outside the room, 2 special agents are posted to keep an eye on everything, when suddenly they overhear a bunch of ruckus coming from inside. So they open the door only to get attacked by a bunch of crows at Jiro's command. Jiro runs out past them and escapes out of the hospital to his freedom. By the time sun was setting, he was on a bridge a little distance away from the hospital, thanking the crows for their help and hands over a plastic bag of snacks in return for their help. With that, Jiro returns back to his home to find his dad, but his dad ends up finding him instead right outside his home. Jiro tries to come up with an excuse, but his dad doesn't respond and tells him to follow. Jiro walks behind his dad, who leads him to an empty ground, and when Jiro asks why the hell did he bring him here, he receives a punch to his face, which sends him flying to the ground. Jiro apologizes for being missing for 2 days, but his father claims that Shiba has told him everything, and how he was taken by the Bureau of Espionage. He claims that he can't believe his own son is merged up with a Mononoke. Jiro is surprised and asks how the hell does he know all this, and his father replies that he knows everything because he himself was a member of the Bureau of Espionage once. Suddenly Rego comes outside of Jiro in his spectral form, claiming that he did feel weird about the old man and his deadly intent, and now he knows why he felt like that. The old man replies that he is not going to let the Bureau or a Mononoke exploit him, so instead he is going to kill Jiro and Rego before taking his own life as well. With that, he starts powering up while Jiro has no idea what to do. His father explodes into motion and tries to land an axe kick, but Jiro dodges away. It was not enough though, as the old man closes the distance before Jiro could ever react and lands a combo of punches that Jiro is not able to block. He falls to the ground again, bleeding from his mouth and breathing hard, while the old man claims that he was able to teach Jiro enough for self-defense and still had to train him into becoming a full-fledged warrior. But that dream will stay a dream. With that, he explodes into motion and jumps to finish Jiro off. But Rego intervenes and uses his spectral claw to block the attack and push the old man back. He tells Jiro that the old man really intends to kill him, so he should start taking it seriously. Jiro gets pissed though and tells Rego not to come out till he tells him to. He thinks about the time when he was young and would climb a tree to save a kitten, but didn't know how to get down. His father was always there to catch him in case things went awry. He got scolded about it, but his father was always there. The old man looks at him menacingly, claiming that for years he fought against his fellow men and the Mononoke in the Shadow Realm, a realm which is hell itself, and he did all he could to make sure that Jiro was kept away from that. But now he has spilled water all over his plan by meddling into things that he shouldn't have. Jiro smiles, claiming that he has no regret and promises to get out of this situation on his own. The old man gets pissed and rushes at him to land a punch, but instead of dodging, he headbutts the punch to try and slow down the momentum. But the old man is too strong, and Jiro is thrown back. Thankfully, he regains his balance mid-air and stands once again, blood running down his forehead. The old man realizes that Jiro is not going to back down even if he dies, and decides that he can't do anything about it. He admits defeat, claiming that he is the one who lacks the resolve, before walking off the ground. By the time night falls, Jiro is back in his hot tub, enjoying a soak when Reigo tells him not to go running to the death's door so eagerly because then Reigo saving his life would be completely meaningless. Jiro smiles and calls Reigo his partner, claiming that now they are both in it together. Meanwhile, the old man gets a call from Shiba, who claims that they were worried when Jiro escaped the hospital. But if he is at his home, then everything should be alright. He claims that they are going to send in a car tomorrow to pick Jiro up, as he is now going to be one of them, and someone that they very desperately need. The next morning, he wakes up early to pack everything up, while Reigo questions whether he thinks this is a good idea. Jiro, on the other hand, doesn't seem like a person who cares too much about thinking things through, but Reigo warns him that he has no idea what these people are, and now that he has Reigo's powers as well, he is one of a kind, and they have no idea what these people might or might not do to him. Jiro smirks, asking whether Reigo is developing a soft spot for him, but Reigo immediately tells him to shut his mouth. By the time he packs everything up and goes down to meet his dad, Ichai arrives looking all annoyed, claiming that she is here as his guard and chaperone, to make sure that he doesn't do anything idiotic like running away. She shows him that the company truck is waiting outside and that he will ride in the back with her. Jiro gets annoyed by how she looks at him as if he was an insect, and turns around to say goodbye to his old man before leaving with Ichai. His dad tells him not to die, and Jiro tells him that it's not that easy to kill him before leaving his house to start his new journey. As soon as they get inside the truck and it starts moving, Ichai puts on a pair of handcuffs on Jiro, surprising him as he asks why the hell is he being treated like a prisoner. Ichai wonders out loud, why the hell did she get the job of escorting this idiot, and claims that he feels like a prisoner because he basically is a prisoner. Jiro is confused and asks what the hell is she talking about. Ichai replies that the Bureau is an agency made to fight against the Mononoke, and right now, he is half human and half Mononoke, so technically he is nothing but a prisoner Mononoke for them. She claims that she has no idea what the higher-ups see in him for allocating so many resources on him, but she takes her work very seriously and will do everything as it needs to be done. Jiro looks at her and claims that he is being nice to her just because she is a girl, and if she was a guy, he would have dealt with her by now. This enraged her as she punches the truck wall right beside his face, causing a dent and scaring the crap out of him. She tells him that there are two things that she hates the most. Number one is Mononokes, and number two is sexist pricks like Jiro. She tells him that to her he doesn't even exist, so it would be better for him to shut his dumb ass up so she could do her work in peace. Just then Reigo appears beside Jiro, telling the girl to shut her trap, as he was trying to nap, but clearly the two of them are not going to let him have any sleep. He looks at the girl, claiming that the Bureau must be really short-handed if they sent just one girl to guard them. Ichai looks at him with disgust and tells him that she doesn't talk to dirty Mononokes, but Reigo continues, claiming that she has other issues to deal with right now. Meanwhile, the two drivers that were driving the truck start getting into an area which seems to be covered with thick fog. One of them wonders why there's so much mist here, but the driver claims that they are heading towards a mountain, and the mist must be coming from there. Suddenly, the driver spots someone standing in the fog in the middle of the road. He turns around to tell the other guy beside him, but the moment he turns his head, he sees that a man with some weird glasses has taken off the head from the body of his friend. Inside the back of the truck, they suddenly hear a scream and a loud jolt that completely sends them sprawling as the lights start flickering. Ichai realizes that something has gone horribly wrong. She gets up and tells Jiro to stay inside the truck while she goes out to investigate, and Jiro tries to protest, but she shuts the door and climbs out. She looks around and realizes that they have entered Spectral Mist Zone. She was starting to wonder how the hell could she make such a big mistake when suddenly she hears a voice coming from behind and spots the man with the weird glasses sitting on top of a giant man-looking creature devouring the two drivers. He claims that he was pretty excited for this mission, hoping to get some good action against the Bureau, but all he got was two useless drivers and a guard that to a female. Ichai gets annoyed, mumbling that all men are misogynistic and sexist pricks before tapping on her watch and transforming into her battle uniform. which doesn't look much different to be honest from her normal look. The glasses boy finally gets excited and tells the giant idiot to stop chewing like a moron as they have to fight again. Suddenly, the mist covers them once again and they turn into their Mononoke form. Ichai immediately takes out her gun and starts shooting as if she is in an American high school. But the giant doesn't seem to be affected in the least, as he simply blocks everything off with his arms. Meanwhile, the other guy uses the distraction and attacks her from behind. She manages to dodge it, but is thrown towards the giant, so she quickly takes her knife out and stabs it in the giant's fist, barely saving herself while trying to slash him as well. She lands back on her feet and realizes that this isn't going to be easy, as she is against two Mononokes and both seem to have their own special abilities. She realizes that the giant is an idiot and doesn't really use his brain, but he is hard as a rock. Meanwhile, the thinner one is the brains of this operation. While she was thinking all this though, the thinner Mononoke appears behind her and punches her straight into the truck. Inside, Jiro feels the thud of Ichai hitting against the truck and wonders what's going on outside. Reigo claims that they are being attacked by Mononoke. He continues that while Jiro was yapping with that girl, Reigo sensed that they have entered a spectral zone. Jiro has no idea what is he talking about. He makes it easier for Jiro and tells him that the spectral zone is basically an area which is separated from the human dimension and is the realm of the Mononoke. Jiro still doesn't really understand, but tells Reigo to help him bust out of these cuffs so he could go outside and help the girl. Reigo tells him that he can't do that because these handcuffs are specialized tools and are used to block spectral energy, so he can't do anything right now. Jiro gets pissed and claims that he will get Ichai to take them off then. But Reigo claims that he should just let the Bureau and the Mononoke fight it out while they scram, because to both of them, Jiro is nothing but a piece of meat to be used and experimented on. So why should he get involved? Jiro claims that there is a person fighting outside for their safety, and he can't call himself a man if he sits inside twiddling his thumbs and doing nothing. Just then, the conversation gets interrupted by the giant punching the back of the truck, splitting it in two, causing Jiro to be sent flying. The thin Mononoke jumps on top of the truck and looks at Jiro, claiming that for some reason he was told to get him back alive, but he doesn't really care much. He still gives Jiro 10 seconds to make a decision, whether he would surrender peacefully or become food for them. Jiro immediately turns to Ichai and tells her to untie him, but Ichai refuses. Jiro gets mad, calling her insane, but the thinner Mononoke claims that 10 seconds are over, and now he is going to be eaten whether he likes it or not. Jiro again tells Ichai to get him out of these cuffs, and the tense situation reminds her of her childhood. At the funeral of her own mother, who died trying to defend people against Mononoke for the Bureau, she remembers how she promised her father that she will start training from that day on and make both him and her mother proud. Ichai snaps her out of her memories, as he tells her that he knows that she wants to do her duty perfectly, and right now, that means freeing him from his cuffs. Just as the giant was about to attack again, Ichai takes a deep breath and cuts him out of his handcuffs, releasing all his powers. Jiro immediately jumps up in the air, and alongside Reigo's powers, delivers such a powerful punch that the fatty completely evaporates from Earth. The thin bloke is shocked to see his powers, and Ichai takes advantage of that, appearing behind him and slashing him to bits with her blade. Jiro gets back up and tells Ichai that she fought for them and he fought to help her, so that makes them even. Ichai looks at him with a bit more respect and claims that now that the truck is gone, they don't have much of a choice but to walk the rest of the way. It takes them a full day before they are able to reach the headquarters. The next morning, Jiro wakes up near the pier and starts brushing while thinking about everything that has happened to him in the matter of a single week. He found the existence of Mononokes, got attacked by them twice, and now he is here. His thoughts are interrupted by Shiba, who asks how is Jiro liking it here. Jiro claims that he hasn't had a single moment to himself, as he is always being monitored. But Shiba claims that it was for the safety of himself and the organization. He claims that this is the headquarters for the second squad, in which he will also start working as an agent, and their group is going to be called Black Torch. Jiro isn't much interested in all this, and Shiba wonders how to get him to work with them as a team. Suddenly, a car pulls up and a young woman walks out of it, bidding them good morning. Shiba introduces her as the assistant chief named Hana, and alongside that another desperate young man roughly Jiro's age also comes out of the car, simping for Hana and talking about how amazing she is. Shiba claims that the dispo is named Rei. He is also a rookie who is joining them, but he hails from a notable spy family just like Ichai. Jiro immediately doesn't like the look of him. Once inside the warehouse, Rei approaches Ichai and calls her beautiful, which makes her blush, while he looks at Jiro with disgust, asking how the hell did a no one like him get in his unit. Jiro gets up and things were starting to heat up, when Shiba tells them that this is the perfect time and organizes a fight between them. They move outside of the warehouse and get ready for a showdown to prove who is the real man of the group. Reigo suddenly appears behind him, yawning, asking why can't he simply have a good nap without any disturbances, and Jiro tells him to go back to sleep, as he didn't wake him up. But Reigo claims that he could sense the eyes of this spectacled nerd on him staring him down, and he couldn't ignore it. Jiro tells Reigo that the nerd wants to fight him, and that's why they are here. But Reigo couldn't care less. Rei gets ready with his sword, and Jiro asks Shiba why the hell does Four Eyes get to have a weapon while he is without. Shiba replies that Rei belongs to an old family who served the shogun, and his family specializes in the art of sword fighting. He claims that Rei's ancestors were the ones that taught the shogun and the princes how to fight with a sword. Shiba claims that the nerd likes to fight with a sword, but it's no matter as Jiro can grab a weapon of his choice as well. Rei excitedly tells Jiro not to hold back and use the brand new weapon that he has acquired, pointing at Reigo. Jiro responds by telling him that Reigo is not a weapon and is only a cat, who has nothing to do with this duel as it is between the two of them. Jiro turns towards Reigo and tells him not to interfere during the fight. Reigo claims that he doesn't care and is heading back to sleep. With that, he disappears. Suddenly, Rei drops his sword to the ground and turns around, claiming that it isn't going to be fun this way. Jiro is confused, and the nerd replies that it's a handicap, since if Rei fights like his usual self, it would be over too soon and it won't be any fun for the spectators either. He claims that he would even close his eyes to make it more of a contest. This pisses Jiro off completely as he gets ready, claiming that he would beat his punchable face in. While the onlookers watch, Jiro runs at Rei and jumps in the air ready to punch him on the back of his head, while Rei faces the sea with his eyes closed. Each eye wonders whether he is doing this so that Rei can't figure out his footsteps, but Shiba thinks that Jiro is too hot-headed to think it through this well, and Rei has more of a sixth sense, a 360-degree awareness which makes him a wall of blades. Right on cue, Rei turns around, grabs his sword at the speed of lightning, and strikes Jiro right in his face, knocking him down to the ground. Hena feels bad for Jiro, while Rei starts blabbering about how they should end the fight right here, as if they continue, Jiro just might die as he won't be able to handle blows like this. Shiba, however, tells him to shut up and look behind him. Rei turns around only to see that Jiro is back on his feet, wiping the dust off of him, claiming that it was just a scratch and nothing else. Rei has to agree that Jiro has quite a bit of resilience. Jiro claims that his grandpa has been beating the crap out of him ever since he was little, so Rei's little swordplay won't do anything. Hearing someone call the art of swordsmanship a play triggers Rei, as he claims that the art that he has been gifted with has been in his family for centuries, and it is the art to kill. Disrespecting it is an offense punishable by death. Jiro simply smiles and tells the nerd to bring it on and punish him if he can. Shiba realizes that something interesting is going to happen, and tells Hena to record properly. Jiro rushes at the nerd once again, just like the last time, and Rei thinks that Jiro is the kind of guy who would rush at things the same way till it works. But that won't be helpful against him. Rei decides to finish it all with one powerful slash. But to his surprise, the moment he slashes at Jiro, his sword breaks into two, and he is met with a powerful punch to the face which knocks him to the dirt as blood spurts out of his mouth. He thinks about how this could have happened, and realizes that Jiro was aiming for his sword to begin with. The first time when he got hit, he mapped the attack, and when he tried the same thing the second time, Jiro was able to time a counter perfectly. Jiro laughs and claims that now they are both at equal points, but he doesn't have the crutch that he used to call his sword anymore. Jiro asks whether he would like to admit defeat, but the nerd is tougher than he looks as he wipes himself and puts his glasses back on before running at him for another clash. They both start whipping each other, throwing punches after punches, hitting each other's in the face multiple times, and soon both of them get knocked out. A little while later, the nerd wakes up and finds Jiro sitting on the ground nearby. Jiro tells the nerd that he just woke up a couple minutes ago, which means that the fight was a draw. But the nerd admits that Jiro did wake up first. Jiro throws him a can of juice and claims that the nerd could have actually killed him with the first attack if he wanted to. And the only reason why he was able to break his sword during the next attack was because it was a wooden replica. If it was an actual sword, he would have been done for. So like a gentleman, Jiro accepts his defeat. The nerd is actually surprised by the maturity that Jiro suddenly showed, but that all goes away as soon as the nerd tried to open the can, and the soda splashes all over him, while Jiro laughs like a maniac, claiming that he shook it a lot before handing it over to him. Rei throws the crushed can back at his face, and together they both go inside the shed. Back inside, Hena seems worried about the two boys, wondering whether they would do well. But Shiba claims that today was just a fun activity, The real test will begin tomorrow on the field. Hena is surprised, claiming that the two boys are still complete rookies. But Shiba claims that live missions are the best sort of training for anyone. The very next morning, Jiro, Ichai and Rei get suited up for their first mission as a team, and Hena can't contain her excitement as Shiba briefs them. He tells them to hold the button on their left wrist, and immediately the suit transforms into their everyday clothes so that they can blend in with the public. Shiba then tells Jiro to double tap the button, and the moment he does that, he turns completely invisible to others. Shiba claims that the invisible mode is still a new addition and should be used sparingly as it has some negative effect on other gear. He tells them that they will learn the rest while using them and loads them up in a car before leading them to a shrine. Jiro wonders what the hell are they doing at a shrine, but Shiba claims that the shrine is one of the hidden locations of the Bureau, and they are here for some things. On the way, Jiro notices a guy in a hoodie eating a chocolate bar as if he is an animal. But he ignores the man and moves on. Shiba comes across one of the agents and starts begging him to let them use the facility. The agent is a little hesitant, claiming that Special Operation Division 1 team is supposed to come today and nothing good ever comes out when two teams collide. Shiba claims that they would be out before the first division comes. Jiro asks Ichai what the hell is the first division team, and she replies that it's basically the Bureau's best operatives. They have the most manpower and the agents are all cream of the crop, which is basically the opposite of their Division 2 team. Shiba takes them inside and through hidden staircase, leads them to an underground chamber below. He turns around and asks Rego if he will be okay, and Rego immediately appears and tells Shiba that to shut his trap up. Shiba laughs and opens a vault before revealing that this is the place where Rego was sealed. Jiro spots a huge rock in the middle of the room, and Shiba explains that this is one of the few sanctums with these special rocks that subdue spectral energy, leaving the Mononoke completely defenseless. With that, he claims that he is taking Ichai with him to question some people above, and Rei and Jiro should ask Rego about the day he was sealed. With that, Shiba leaves, and Rego tells Jiro that he has no idea what happened the day he was sealed as he doesn't remember anything. Jiro tells him to stop joking as there is no way he would not remember something that important, but Rego angrily replies that he doesn't need to lie about it. He simply doesn't remember anything. Before Jiro could argue, Rei claims that amnesia is not far-fetched in cases like these, so most likely Rego is telling the truth. He claims that Rego must have been transferred into a special rock like this, which is basically hell for Mononoke, and no one comes out of this unscathed. Rego must have been lucky that he only got some amnesia. With that, he turns towards Rego and asks what happened the day when he woke up from his slumber. Rego replies that he woke up surrounded by a bunch of Mononoke in this chamber, and they shoved a tablet in his face through which a man talked to him, and claimed that he wants Rego to lend them his power so that they could eliminate the humans. Rego wasn't interested though, so he managed to fool them all and run out of there before anyone could do anything. Jiro thinks that the only way to sort all of this out is to beat the crap out of all the enemies that come in his way, while Rei shouts at him and calls him an idiot for thinking that way. Suddenly, they are interrupted by the same man with a hoodie that Jiro saw earlier. He drops his chocolate and suddenly appears between Jiro and Rei while talking to Rego. Both Jiro and Rei react with a punch, but the guy is too fast and he disappears and appears in front of them again. Rego tells Jiro that he needs to be careful with this one, but Jiro is excited to fight as both him and Rei transform into their suits, wondering what kind of a mission would this turn out to be. The hoodie guy looks at them with a smile on his face and introduces himself as Koga, the guy who is going to become the lord of all the Mononoke in this world. Jiro asks Rei what the hell is he talking about, but even Rei has no idea. Koga continues babbling about how they would need a little bit of extra power first, and that's where Rego comes in, as he is here to take Rego to get that extra push and rule the other Mononokes. Jiro laughs at Rego, claiming that someone seems to be in love with him, while Rei thinks about the possibility of Koga trying to deceive them, but as far as he could tell, he seems to be speaking honestly. Rei speaks up, calling Koga and asking why exactly does he want Rego for himself, and Koga replies that humans must be dumber than their look, as the answer is simple. Rego is awesome, a badass, and that's why he wants him. Rei turns to Jiro and claims that Koga seems to be intellectually challenged just like him. Koga continues claiming that Mononokes are not as fragile as humans and are kind of immortal. They will die if you chop them up into pieces, but their spirit survives, but slowly dims out because they have no food. Rego is different in that regard. He is basically a spiritual generator and won't run out of spiritual energy. That's why if a Mononoke manages to get a hold of him, they will become actually immortal, and he aims to do exactly that. He suddenly grows a horn out of his head and claims that he will become immortal and will stand at the pinnacle of all Mononoke. Jiro gets ready to bang it out, but Ray tells him to be careful as they don't know who else is with him. But before he could continue his thought, Koga appears in front of him as quick as lightning and kicks him straight in the chest, knocking the breath out of him before kicking him again, blasting him near the spectral rock. Before Jiro could respond, Koga grabs him by the face and shoves him into the ground, claiming that he has no use for him apart from the fact that he still has Reigo bonded to him. He then turns towards Reigo and picks him up like a stray kitten and starts talking about how he would soon free Reigo from the idiot that he is attached to, and then together they can rule over all the other Mononoke. Reigo, however, crushes his dreams by calling him a wacko, claiming that he is not going to work with him and he doesn't want to become a king to anyone, so he could take his kingdom elsewhere. Hearing this, Koga starts crying and shaking Reigo, asking how the hell could he say something as insensitive as that. But just then, Jiro tells him to shut his mouth as his voice is irritating and grabs his feet to prevent him from moving away. Just then, Ray gets into position as well, and with an incredible speed, he sends an aerial slash towards the Mononoke, pushing him off of Jiro and causing some damage. He tells Jiro that Koga must be a truly formidable opponent, as his attack should have sliced any normal Mononoke into two halves, but it barely scratched Koga. He claims that sooner or later the people above will realize that they are in trouble, but they can't wait for their help, and will need to deal with this issue by themselves. Koga shouts at them to shut up, as he claims that humans are all weaklings, but they pretend to be strong just because they outnumber the Mononoke and think that they own this planet. He turns towards Ray and claims that he is going to die first, but Jiro will have to live, as he is going to be a carrier for Reigo. But he is going to remove Jiro's hands and feet for his own convenience. He claims that now he will show who is the master and who is the servant, and with that, he uses his blood to create a huge weapon, ready to attack. He jumps at them and swings his huge spear, while both Jiro and Ray dodge out of the way. Through the dust, Koga continues his assault and decides to go after Ray first and attacks him. Ray manages to block the attack with his sword, but the attack was so powerful that it snaps his sword into two pieces. With that, Ray has nothing left to defend himself with, and Koga thrusts his giant weird-ass spear in his stomach, blasting him back on the ground. Ray spills blood from his mouth, realizing that Koga is much stronger than he initially thought. But Jiro comes to his defense and tries to attack him from behind, but Koga is too quick and manages to block the attack with his spear, before getting mad at Jiro's power and punching him back, asking where the hell is the power that Reigo gave him. The punch sends Jiro flying and down on the ground once again. Koga walks towards Reigo, claiming that soon he will take him out of the pathetic human, and he will feel alive once again, but Jiro manages to get back up once again, claiming that he is not his suitcase for carrying Reigo. With that, he calls on to Reigo's power, and Reigo agrees that Koga is pretty demented and needs a good beating. The combined power creates a black aura around Jiro's fist as he hits Koga straight on, causing a huge dust cloud to erupt. Ray is shocked by the power of Reigo, but as the dust settles they realize that Koga ate that shot up and got pretty injured, but he is still completely fine. He starts acting weirdly again, telling Jiro to please hand Reigo over as he loves the power that Reigo has, but Jiro refuses. Suddenly Koga realizes that reinforcements are coming, and right now he is not in the condition to deal with them, so he decides to dip for now. He tells Jiro that he should take care of that mouth, as it will get him killed one day. With that, he creates a portal and gets out of there just as Ichai runs in with another older man named Toke, who is from the first squad. They get out of the facility and sit back outside near the shrine, while Shiba talks to the leader of the first squad, who warns him that his antics will result in a disciplinary hearing. He tells her to take it easy, but she simply rolls off in her whip, leaving Shiba and his team behind. Shiba turns around thinking about how in his mind, both Ray and Jiro qualified the entrance test as they managed to hold their own against a seriously powerful Mononoke. He asks Ray if he is doing alright, but Ray didn't like his performance, as he thinks about how completely useless and powerless he was while the Mononoke was beating him left and right. He thinks about how if it was not for his uniform, he would have been dead by now. Ichai thinks about how if she was strong enough, she would have realized that something was wrong and might have been able to help him. While Jiro thinks about what the hell Koga wants from him and Reigo, Shiba tells them not to worry about what happened today as it was just a team bonding exercise, and now he knows that they will be able to work better as a team. The next morning, he gets them ready for a training session, claiming that today would be the day for conditioning. Before he could properly explain what was about to happen during the training, a young girl appears on top of the facility, laughing and jumps down towards them hoping to glide or something, but obviously the little idiot straight up crashes on the ground before getting back up, claiming that she will be training them today. With that, she goes and sits on top of Shiba's shoulders, while Shiba explains that the girl is named Fuyo and is a Mononoke. He tells them that while the Bureau eliminates any Mononoke they see, they also spare the friendly ones and take a more collaborative approach with them. Fuyo warns them that she is not the one to bow down to any humans, as should be apparent by the fact that she is sitting on top of a human. She then turns around to face Reigo and claims that he looks quite cute and cuddly for a dirty stray. While Reigo calls her a tiny pipsqueak, they both start arguing against each other, calling them names, but Shiba tells them to stop as the training is about to begin. He tells the three rookies that Mononokes are capable of inducing hypnosis and hallucinations, so every agent should be capable of breaking free of such things. Today's training session would be about that itself. The objective is simple: get out of Fuyo's hallucination spell safely. With that, Fuyo gets ready and casts a flowery spell, which encases all three of the rookies into a closed lotus. Once inside, Rei finds himself in a shallow pond surrounded by lotuses. He walks forward wondering what kind of a world is this, and how will he be able to break out of here. Suddenly, he finds himself at the edge of the pond and spots a familiar-looking cave in front of him. He tries to remind himself that this is just an illusion. But then he notices a young man with white hair coming out of the cave with his sword out. He recognizes his brother, and again tries to remind himself that this is all just an illusion. But his brother calls out to him before jumping in to attack, while Rei barely manages to get his sword up in time and defend against his own brother. Meanwhile, Ikai is in her own dream. She spots her younger self gardening happily with her mother, who asks Ikai whether she wants to be a gardener when she grows up. And the little Ikai replies that she wants to be a spy just like her parents. Just then her mother gets a call for work again, and just like any other day she left Ikai to play while she went on a mission. Not knowing that it's going to be her last, her mother never returned from the mission, and a funeral was held, which she barely remembered because everything felt like a blur. Ever since that day it felt like laughter was distant to her, and she poured everything that she had into becoming an agent. She started running every single day to get faster than before, and slowly after she was grown up and good enough, she was called to an underground facility where an agent read a note by her father. She was shocked to see a statue in the likeness of her mother in the middle of the underground chamber, but her father in the letters told her that it was in fact her mother, trapped in a spell which turned her to stone, but she is still alive. Ever since that day, her one goal was to find the Mononoke who did that and turn her mother back to normal once again. She touches the statue in the illusion, and suddenly the statue starts shaking, and a monster emerges from within, ready to attack her. Meanwhile, Jiro has been running around in circles during this entire time trying to find an exit, when he suddenly ends up coming face to face with a huge shadowy demon. Reigo seems to recognize it, but he knows that they are in a hallucination, so it can't be real. Jiro, however, doesn't really care, and gets ready to smash it to pieces. Back near the cave, Rei remembers how it used to be when he was younger, always sparring against his twin brother Shin, who was just minutes older than him, but was better at sword fighting than he ever was. Shin easily knocked Rei to the dirt every single time. One such time he remembers how after being bloodied up, their father praised Shin for showing excellent swordsmanship. While Rei was still on the ground, Shin beams at his father, but then immediately picks his brother up, and then starts patching him up. Rei jokes about how he has another scar to hide now, while Shin apologizes, claiming that he wasn't going to go that hard, but he ends up losing himself in the flow. Rei tells him not to apologize, claiming that to be the leader of their clan, Shin needs to get stronger, and if for that to happen, Rei has to be a stepping stone, he would gladly do that. Shin laughs at the comment, claiming that Rei is no stepping stone, and tells him that no matter who the head of the family is, they will always be brothers. Shin talks about how it's reassuring to have a brother to watch his back, and in case Shin fails to be the family's head, it could always be passed over to Rei. Rei smiles at that point, but he knew that it would never happen. Even though they were twins and had been together all their lives, Shin was somehow just a little bit better at everything compared to Rei. And at this point, Rei has accepted that he will always have to live in the shadow of his brother, and he doesn't feel any worse about it anymore. Things continued like this, when finally the day for the Rite of the Sword that decides the succession arrives. The Rite of the Sword is a special ritual for his family, as it chooses the new head for the family, and it happens in the dark cave surrounded by trees behind their house. In the deepest parts of the caves, a special blade which is protected by his family for generations is sealed. The name of the blade is Hell Tempest. Long ago, that blade got possessed by a Mononoke, and the task to complete the Rite of the Sword is to overcome the spirit within and control the blade. Rei remembers seeing the Rite of Sword once when he was very young, But the only thing he remembers from that day is how scared he was. Their father prepares Shin for the rite, telling him that the curse within the sword grows stronger by each passing year, so he would have to resist the curse with all his strength. Shin smiles and claims that he will be back in no time, and goes inside the cave with a happy spirit, while Rei stayed outside, knowing that Shin will overcome the spirit no matter what. Shin was correct that he won't take much time. But what came outside wasn't really Shin. He massacred all the guards and engaged in a duel with their father, while all Rei could do was watch helplessly, completely overwhelmed by what he was seeing. Shin lost, and the Mononoke won the battle. Their father screams at Rei to run away, claiming that he is no match for Shin right now. But Shin took advantage of that and sliced his own father in half, while all Rei could do was watch. Shin looks at Rei with tears rolling down his face as he tells Rei that father was right, and he is no match for him right now. That's why he tells Rei to train as if his life depends upon it, so that one day he could kill him. With that, Shin turns around and walks back into the forest, while Rei screams at him to come back. Back in reality, Rei clashes with his brother's illusion, while Shin tells him that there's no point in fighting as he can't defeat him. But Rei focuses his mind, reminding himself that this is merely a figment of his own imagination and not his real brother. Shin attacks him once again, but Rei blocks the attack before pushing him away. With that, he gets ready for one final clash, and both of them rush at each other with speed. But the illusion was no match for Rei, who easily destroys it and passes the test. Meanwhile, Ichai is still battling against her own demons as her mother, in the form of a Mononoke, attacks her while she dodges it again and again. She remembers how calm and collected her mother was, and with the same resolve she takes her knife out and slashes at the monster, destroying it immediately. With that, even she returns back to reality, and finds out that Rei also just came out. Shiba congratulates them both for making it out of the trance within 10 minutes. And then he turns towards the last lotus containing Jiro and Reigo. He wonders how they are doing, as they are special cases in this setting. The lotus test brings out the deepest insecurities that are hidden in the soul. But in this case, there are two souls fused into one. Back inside, Jiro dodges the monster's attack one after the other, but realizes that this monster is too quick for his size, and he wonders what the hell even is this thing. The monster laughs and replies that it will show him what it really is, and with that, it explodes and starts chasing after Jiro, while he runs away. Back outside, Fuyo realizes that something has gone wrong, and as she opens her eyes, she notices that her pink lotus has turned jet black. Shiba asks what's wrong, and Fuyo replies that she has lost control of the lotus, and she thinks this is because of Reigo. She claims that usually she has full control of the situation and can abort the training session if things get too dangerous, but right now, she has no control over the situation, and Jiro will have to break it out of this on his own. Otherwise, he would be crushed within the lotus forever. Back inside, Jiro and Reigo are suddenly transported to another era. They look around and find themselves near the shrine where the black obsidian rock in which Reigo got sealed was. But instead of being underground, it was on top of the shrine, high and mighty. Reigo has no idea where they are when suddenly they hear the voice of a young man running up to the temple and thanking Lord Reigo for the bountiful harvest that their village got. Reigo and Jiro are shocked to hear this, but what's more shocking is that Reigo appears near the shrine and tells the young man that he doesn't have to come here every single day and that he hasn't done anything for the bountiful harvest. The young man smiles and responds that in the other villages, the Mononoke and the demons are fighting and killing humans day after day, but thanks to Reigo they are too scared to come to this village, keeping the people here safe. Reigo looks away and claims that he isn't doing all this to save them or anything. It just so happens that he likes this place and wants to stay here. The young man claims that just because of his mere presence, the villagers are safe, and that makes him really happy. With that, the young man leaves a radish and some fish for Reigo and leaves the shrine, promising to come the next day. Jiro suddenly realizes that this seems to be a completely different era, and what he was thinking is said out loud by the demon, who claims that this is 1730, before Reigo was sealed in the obsidian stone. He claims that this was a time when Mononokes were not a myth that only some people knew about, but they were very well known among the common folk, as they feared and revered them. Just then, Jiro notices a young man with white hair moving towards the shrine with a smile as he greets Reigo, calling him an old friend. The man walks towards him, asking why the hell did he have to live in a place which has such a huge death obsidian rock, which is basically poison to them. But Reigo simply eats his fish, replying that it keeps other Mononokes out of his sight and gives him some peace. The real Reigo suddenly realizes that he remembers this voice from somewhere, and after thinking he remembers that this is the person who contacted him right after he was released from the rock. The white-haired man tells Reigo that the humans are changing their behavior and are actually killing Mononokes now. Reigo doesn't seem to care much and claims that some of the Mononokes were getting too cocky and killing humans in cold blood, so this was bound to happen. The white-haired man replies that it's not just that, it's also the fact that they are making an organized anti-Mononoke force which is backed by the Shogun himself. And with an organized force, they are hunting down Mononokes one by one. He claims that some of the Mononoke have even joined the humans to save their own skin. And this is changing the natural order, where the Mononoke prey on the humans and the humans fear and revere them. Reigo claims that he still doesn't care about all that, and asks what he wants. Suddenly, a bunch of Mononoke appear out of nowhere, and the white-haired man tells Reigo that he is preparing a force of his own to counteract the humans, and he wants Reigo to join them. Reigo straight up refuses, claiming that he doesn't want to be a part of any such groups. The Mononoke in front of him starts shouting, claiming that he is not understanding the scope of this situation, and some ask whether he is on the side of the humans, but the white-haired man silences them all and turns towards Reigo, claiming that a Mononoke of his strength and power will not be ignored. He promises to come back tomorrow and tells Reigo to think it over, but Reigo tells him not to return as his answer won't change. The next morning, Amagi, the white-haired man, returns back to the shrine, claiming that he has come here for his answer, and to know whether Reigo would join them or not. Reigo tells him once again that he is not interested, but he then notices blood dripping from his hand, while Amagi laughs, claiming that the village is really nice, fertile and filled with humans, so he had a snack on the way. In his hand was the severed head of the young man who brought Reigo fishes every single day. This pushes Reigo over the edge and he transforms into a huge monster, making Jiro realize that the monster they were fighting before was none other than Reigo himself. Amagi immediately turns into a Mononoke, while Reigo charges a magical spell and blasts Amagi straight on in blind rage. The strength that Reigo possessed was so strong that every single thing in the area, the shrine, the mountain, the forests, all the Mononokes that Amagi brought, and even every single villager was completely demolished. Amagi himself lost an arm and was in terrible state, claiming that Reigo is just as strong as he imagined. But now, with the destruction of the entire village, the humans will turn against him and will eventually hunt him down. So the best course of action for him would be to join the Mononoke. But Reigo thinks for a while, remembers how the young man called him the saving grace of the village, and with the carnage he just committed, he decides that he is not going to take any sides, and walks towards the Death Obsidian. Amagi shouts at him to stop, but Reigo fuses with the Death Obsidian, sealing himself in the rock for an eternity. They soon return back into the dreamlike state with the ghost of Reigo in front of them, mad at the fact that Reigo fused with a human and took a side when he decided that he would never choose sides. The monster attacks them, but Jiro jumps out of reach and asks Reigo whether they should end this charade. Reigo gives Jiro all his powers and they get ready to fight. Back outside, Fuyo continues her hardest to regain control over the Lotus, but fails repeatedly. Just then, a crack emerges on the Black Lotus, and a huge demonic hand breaks through the Lotus, followed by Jiro and Reigo coming out, angry at the fact that they were the last to finish the task. Soon, over some sodas, Jiro explains everything he saw, and Shiba realizes that they have found some really interesting news. Hana asks whether she should report this to the higher-ups, but Shiba refuses, claiming that they would use this information as leverage, and starts coming up with a plan to go forward and find the Samagi. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.